So I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Katie, Reverend Katie Choy-Wong. Katie and I first met when I was called to one of the several roles that I carry in American Baptist life in terms of serving as the director of American Baptist Women in Ministry. Katie early on had reached out to me and became a trusted colleague, confident, and constant encourager. I am not alone in experiencing her warmth, her wisdom, and her wonderful wit. You will not leave our time together without being impacted by her smile and her the warmth that exudes from her and flows from her. Throughout her ministry, she has touched the lives not only of women, which is how I first came to know her through that context, but men also alike, and she bears witness to the transforming power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it is for this reason that I really want to lift her up in terms of the American Baptist Church's President Sparrow Oaks Award. This award is presented to people who have made an exceptional and outstanding contribution to the life of Christ's church and who in life and service manifest richly the gifts and fruits of the Spirit. I know Katie, in all of her humbleness, would want me to add that. So my mom, you wouldn't necessarily know, was a previous winner along with my dad in terms of the gospel ministry that they've lived out. But Katie has spent a lifetime sharing the gospel, serving on national staff of American Baptist Home Mission Societies, serving on regional staff of one of our American Baptist 33 regions, growing healthy churches, and serving as a local church pastor, New Life Community Church. And in that order, by the way, most people journey from local pastor to regional staff to national staff. Katie has lived the journey, the Jesus journey. Now, we know as Baptists, we are not hierarchical in our organizations. Nonetheless, it happens to be the case that many people's movement through ministry happens to start with the local church, and then they connect with national ministries, regional ministries, and then national staff. And for Katie, it was the complete opposite. And by the way, not to be overly blunt, but what certainly would be obvious, I mean, that movement down that Jesus journey also had a price tag or sacrifice, let's just say, as well. So when she even served as a local pastor, she took a salary cut. So she downsized in order to upsize or raise up young leaders and leaders that represented the different ethnic and cultural diversity in her community. So she practices what she preaches, living out a passion to become beloved community. She has a particular passion for bridge building and for anti-racism work, and is a consultant in the area of intercultural ministries. Along with two colleagues, she authored the book Building Lasting Bridges, an updated handbook for intercultural ministries, which by your connection with NABF and your being here today, you will have as a gift. And Katie can sign throughout her time here if you would like her to have you sign the book. Make sure you get your copy. I think Zoe will help with that. But in every facet and in every way, Katie has been a leader with a servant's heart, living out, as Emmett has so well said, our incarnational ministry and our mission as American Baptist churches connected with NABF of serving as the hands and feet of Christ. I could name a lot of degrees and many accomplishments and many more awards that Katie has received. But the most important thing, and I know she would say this as well, is that she's a friend who walks the way and is a companion on the journey. Those who have come to know Katie have come to know Jesus in just a little bit deeper way. And I think that at the end of our time here, you will not only have a new friend, but I hope you will also know Jesus just a little bit more as well. Katie. Yeah, and let me just add in our intentions to be inclusive. My mom has hearing challenges, and this contraption helps to direct sound to her hearing aids.
Wow. Thank you, Pat, for that introduction. Um, and I want to thank our AV, our tech people, because they lowered the mic, and luckily Pat and I are the same height or similar height. As Pat has said that my name is Katie, but actually that's my nickname. My real name is Catherine Choy-Wong, and we can put the first slide up this way. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead and while they're doing that. And I'll explain a little bit more about that name because it has a special meaning. But some of you may know that I'm from Town, USA. I was born in San Francisco, and in a hospital called Chinese Hospital in Chinatown, and that's where my mother was born too. So it depends on where you hear a little bit more. My father was born in China. He came over when he was 14, and then he went to. I'll say more about that because it's part of my story. But my mother was born in Chinatown, and she just turned 94 in September, and she a little bit about the hospital was it's a hospital that was started by the Chinese, but it was for any person of color in San Francisco back in the 1800s. That's how old it was, because people of color could not go to any other hospital. So that kind of a historic hospital that my mother was born in, and then I was born in. Um, I've been in, as Pat said, I've been in professional ministry for over 43 years, even though I think I look 29, don't I? Or, except for my white hair. Um, but I went from starting after seminary from national staff to regional staff, then seminary, you forgot that, being on seminary staff, and then local church pastor. And that was a trajectory because those were the opportunities that God gave me and opened the doors for. And for many women in ministry, it doesn't always happen the way male can go into ministry. And so my heart was always with the local church. That was my original calling, that God was calling me to a local church, but it took me 20 over 25 years to get there, before a church opened up to call me as their pastor. Unlike my colleagues who are Methodists, both of them are Methodists, we don't get appointed to a church, but a church did call me. And I share a little bit about that church because it's a church that started out as a Chinese American Presbyterian church. And the people left the Presbyterian church. They were the English speaking part, and they decided to start a new church. And as they were searching for denominations, because they wanted to be a part of a local fellowship, a larger community than just a local church, they asked for representatives from different denominations to speak to them about being part of a larger community. And so they decided on American Baptist or Baptist because of our belief in the Bible. We were evangelical, but also in social justice. And so the two combinations was said they went from Presbyterian to American Baptist. And so I was became one of their pastors. And in that time of being Chinese American, predominantly middle class professionals, we had 13 different ethnic groups in our church. And a large group of that right now is Nigerian. So I'm so happy to see our brother from Nigeria. We have a pastor, we had 13 well, not 13, we had 11 pastors they were seminarians, came to our church and decided that they wanted to stay and start to minister. But one of them is Nigerian, Pastor Ada, and another one's from Ghana, Pastor um, Pastor, my mind is going crazy, um, Pastor Frank. So those two were part of our church, but we also had a Naga from Northeast India, Pastor Khan, and then two of us were Chinese Americans. So we've been a very diverse staff, but that's been part of my life, very much a part of my life. We're going to have a very interactive time together. So I'm not going to be speaking the whole time, but instead you're going to do a lot of the work. And my passion is intercultural. The way we got involved was I was explaining to Pastor Barber that 25 years ago, the United Methodists had decided to be very innovative in Northern California. I'm from Northern California. So they decided that they were going to appoint different pastors to different cultural congregations. So they would have a Black pastor in a white church, a Chinese pastor in a Black church. They mixed everything up. And they said, well, we're hoping to break the racial and ethnic barriers. So it was an experiment. But the one thing they forgot about the experiment is you just can't put people into these different places and think that it is going to go smoothly. So what they discovered very quickly was that there was a lot of there began to have some conflict and some misunderstanding. And so they asked my friend, Dr. Shan, Lucille McSpadden, we call her Shan, who has done a lot of refugee work. And I had worked with her in the past. And so that's her. She can lead a team to start training pastors. And so that's how I got involved. She got me involved. And we began to build a team that was training the pastors on how to minister to a cultural group that's not part of in their congregation, that's not part of them. And when that happened, we realized very quickly that you just can't train the pastors. You also have to train the congregations. And together they can begin to understand each other and the different cultures because of how to lead worship, how to lead meetings, the different types of worship experience services and experiences. All these different things came into play. And you have an opportunity later to look at some of that. So we're going to look at those things. And so let me go on to the next slide. And so the goals of the day is this: self-awareness as ethnic cultural beings, acquire a better understanding of culture, ethnocentrism, cultural bias, appreciate our differences as we mutually uplift each other, begin to develop tools for the journey to build lasting bridges and a beloved community. That's our hope for today. And then the next slide. So what is the beloved community? I love this definition of beloved community. Beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but its affirmation by each of us claiming the identities and cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in the world. To form beloved community, we do not surrender ties to precious origins. And that's from Bell Hooks. So I just love that definition of bell hooks. Okay, next slide. So before we begin, I like to start off with some intercultural exercises that we do to help put us in the right frame of mind of how to relate to each other authentically. On your, I think, did we pass out the handouts? Yeah, thank you. You are going to have a handouts. Now the handout, let me explain, was put in a little different order. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through them, but there's a couple of pages at the end that I'm going to switch around. But for the first one, it's going to be the intercultural sensitivity exercises. And I hope a lot of these things are in the book, but also I wanted to make a little plug too. With the book that you're getting today, if you go online to Judson Press, you also get a 150-page workbook that's free. And in the workbook are a lot of these resources, exercises, things that you can do. And what some churches have done is that they have used this as a small group study where they help the churches. I think there's some on this table, Zoe, that didn't get it. Oh, you did get it. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. So the the exercises and things. Anyway, what churches have done is that some of them have used it as a small group study, where they go through it and they help their congregation work with in work with different cultures and how to relate to different cultures. So these exercises were developed a number of years ago, but they help us to think through. This is not something that you would do together, but you would think through for yourself before you do and say and act on anything interculturally, to help remind us to keep in mind how to be authentic in our relationships. So the first one is called, okay, next slide, is called the prior question of trust. And that's something you ask yourself. Is what I am doing, thinking, or saying building or undermining trust? Okay, so that's the first thing you do. And then, is what I'm doing, thinking, or saying potential for building trust or potential for undermining trust? So you just ask yourself that before you do and say or act on anything in an intercultural relationship. What am I doing? Is it going to help with trust, or is it going to undermine trust? The next one is called prior forgiveness exercise. And this is what that is. Please forgive me if I offend you in some way. I don't intend to, but if I do, please help me so I won't offend you or someone else in the same way. Okay. It's a prior forgiveness. In other words, it's inevitable that when you're in an intercultural relationship, you're going to make mistakes. You might offend someone and you don't intend to. So you give permission ahead when you're in an interaction with in other cultures to say, I don't know all about your culture, but I might say or do something that might offend you or hurt you. Please forgive me. You say that ahead of time so that that you're giving permission to them to tell you when you do offend them, and to ask them to share with you that so that you won't do it again. You can learn from that experience. So it kind of like, okay, sometimes we don't do intercultural relationships because we're afraid that we might say something wrong. We might offend that person or hurt that person. So you pull back from that relationship and you restrain yourself, and you're not as honest in your relationship because you're afraid that you might hurt that other person. So this kind of gives permission for the other person to say, if I do offend you or hurt you or make a mistake, please let me know so I can learn and I won't do it again. So you kind of giving permission to do that. And that really helps because now you can be honest with each other. Okay, the next one. A slogan resuscitation says, I have most to give and most to gain when I build loving relationships with those very different from me. In other words, you remind yourself that I will gain a lot if I invest in this relationship. And you know that, and I can give myself to that relationship and to be a integral part of that. Okay. It's sort of like what Emmett was saying earlier about community. You give of yourself, and when you do, you really come out in a stronger and more authentic relationship. And then the last one is called the naive question exercise. Now, this one you do only if you have already built a trusting relationship with the other person who's from a different culture. Only after you have already built a relationship, because this is a question that you will ask, or a statement that you might ask that other person that you thought of, you wanted to ask, but you're afraid to all this time. But now that you have a relationship built, now I can ask you that question. Okay, so the relationship is already there. So I can say, these are things that I've always been wondering about your culture, but I didn't want to ask yet, but I can ask now. And it gives you into a deeper relationship with each other. Okay, so this is only you do after you have a relationship. Okay. So those are some of the things that just to keep in mind when we deal with other cultures. Now we're going to go into name stories, and we're going to break into groups, but not yet. Yeah, you could go back to the session one. No, sorry, for yeah, stay there. And so let me just explain a little bit about this. We're going to begin to go into our small groups, and on your name tags are different colors. So you're going to look at your colors, and you're going to find your group. I'm not sure how there's four. How many colors do we have, Zoe? Five colors, and we have five tables. Or one, two, three, four tables. Okay. Um. So one table. Well, each table can have one color. You want to go ahead and assign the color to each table? Okay, go ahead and get into your tables. We're gonna do a lot, and this is your group for now, but we're gonna be moving around a lot. And then the fifth color, you said, okay, okay, that's fine. So they each have. I don't think you need your computers. Well, yeah, if you want to. Let me get my stuff out of the way here. Um, they're gonna need to write on the paper. Yeah, yeah. For now, yeah. But one table could be, one group can be in a circle here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, let me get out of your way. Let me just. Oh, I see. Okay. If purple wants to, they could put their newsprint on the wall. Yeah. Okay. Did everybody find a group? You should have only four or five in a group. Okay. So hopefully, yeah, there's the purple group could make a circle with the chairs. Just take some extra chairs, and then you could put the newsprint up on the wall here. Yeah. So every group should have four or five at the most. Okay. Oh, there's a group of three here. Is there a group of five that can move over to this table? Um, oh, there's another group there, back there. Okay, if you have a group of five, that can I have a volunteer? Some groups have three. Oh, okay, that's all right. Then we'll leave it as is. But the group of five, maybe the group of five, one of them can move over here so that every group has four and three, I guess. So Oh, some people didn't show up. Okay, got it. Does one person want to come over to so that you won't have as much? That way you have more time together. Okay. Yeah, you can split up. You can go ahead. If you have at least group of okay. Fours and fives are ideal. Okay. Okay. Four and five are great. Okay. You want this one? Okay. Great. Let me just explain what we're going to be doing in a minute. We're going to do name stories. And we're gonna, as we break into groups, we're gonna share our name. And let me just share when I mentioned about my name, Catherine. Here. I hope you can see this, but anyway, I'll put it up here, Catherine. So what we want you to do in your groups is to share the. You can go ahead and put the next slide up. Is to share your name that you want to use today. Now maybe you want a different name, but the names that we have stories behind it. It may have a particular meaning. It may have maybe it represents something important in your life. Maybe it reflects your culture or your ancestry. But what is it that you want to share with this group? So my name is Catherine, and the reason I got this name and why it's so special is because of my father. When he came over at 14 by himself from China, he went directly to Miles City, Montana, because my grandfather had a restaurant there, Chinese American restaurant. And this was in the late 1920s. And my father, when he went there, he spoke no English. To Miles City, Montana. And how many Chinese are in Montana? Not San Francisco, not New York, right? Chicago, but this is Miles City, Montana, in the late 1920s or early 1930s. Anyway, he 14. So when he got there, they didn't know what to do with him in the schools because he didn't speak English. So they put him, 14 years old, in a first grade class so he can learn English because that's where you learn to read and write and so forth. So they put him in a 14-year-old with first graders. He was so embarrassed, so ashamed, and he really was so he just didn't fit, right? But the teacher in there was a wonderful Christian by the name of Catherine Lockwood. And Catherine Lockwood was a United Methodist, very active in the church. And she took it under her wing, took him under her wing, and took him after school, after classes. Every day she tutored him. And she tutored him on the weekends. And on Sunday, she took him to church. And after church, she took him home, fed him, and tutored him again. So that in a year, he can go to his grade level. And so and then she became a second mother to him because his mother was back in China. It was during the exclusion days when they wouldn't allow Chinese into this country that women weren't allowed. So she became a second mother to him. And he vowed that if he ever had a daughter, she would be named Catherine. So that's why my name has so much meaning. And I got to meet her, later on in the years. But your name has some meaning. Whether it maybe it's named after your uncle or auntie or great grandmother or what, or maybe you have some other stories behind your name. So you have an opportunity now to share your name. Write your name on the newsprint, like me, big print, the name that you want to talk about, and then share in your group, take a few minutes, share with each other what your name means. Okay, so go ahead and do that. For those of you who are online, please think about your name online. Those of you who are online, think about your name and what meaning is behind your name. Okay, okay. Did everybody get a chance to share? All right. Your names are fascinating, and we were talking with the tech people here, because they're part of our identity, right? That's who we are. But there are other parts of our identity that is beyond our names and that shape who we are. And on your handout, you on the second back of the exercises, the intercultural exercises, there's a page that's called Five Circles of Identity. And these are things that influence who we are, from our personality all the way to each circle, beyond farther and farther. So first, who we are is our personality, right? Some of us are more introverts, some of us are extroverts, some of us are creative types, some of us are, like the routine, and so forth. So we have certain personalities, right? Uh, I mean, I have three siblings, my sister and two brothers, and each of us are so different. I'm the oldest, and I went to ministry, right? My second brother, the one next to me, became a pharmacist. The third one became a sheriff, a sheriff's deputy. The fourth one, it was in my sister was in human resources. All different, and we are not alike. And are we from the same family, right? um, so personality affects who we are. Then the next circle we have is what we call primary, and these are things that we can't really change either. I mean, our ethnicity, our age. Like I wish I was younger, like 29, but but I just turned 70 this year. And so you can't change your age. Our language, the languages we have, our physical ableness. I mean, some my seniors in my church used to say, wait till you turn 70. And I said, they are right. All of a sudden, where does eight come from and so forth? Our birth order. I'm the oldest. I can't change that. So those are things that are the primary circle. Then the next circle is secondary, things that we experience in our lives, where we went to school, whether we got married, our faith, what we chose to be in the Baptist, where we lived. I was born in San Francisco and grew up in the West Coast, and and economically, how we grew up, whether we grew up a low income, middle income, upper income, those are things that we experience, right? And that's the secondary area. Then there's societal things that we experience that shape our identity too, like the club membership that we join, the social networks where we have done volunteers, where we were employed, and those are what we call societal, the societal circles. And then the last one is the era that we lived in. So World War II people all have something connected. We all now have an era connection, the pandemic, right? Some of us were from the Vietnam War time, right? So those eras have shaped us too. So each of these circles have shaped our identity, but some are more influential than others. So we're going to have an opportunity to look at these, and I want you to pick out, just by yourself for now, pick out 5 of these areas that you think influence you to who you are today, that still have an impact on you today and is important to you, but skip personality and skip the era. Okay. And then out of those 5, share 3 of them with your table. Share 3 of those with your table that who influence who you are today, that still impact you. Like for me, being the eldest still impacts me today because my siblings, and even I'm the eldest of 26 first cousins. Yeah. And I was always put in charge of them. They say, you what, then we have family parties. You watch your cousins, right? And that has influenced me today in leadership. People say, wow, how do you become a leader? Because I'm the eldest of 26 first cousins, right? That still impacts me today, right? So what 3 things do you want to share with your table that impact you, your identity today, and your actions, how you look at other people, how you react to, you know, others than yourselves. Okay, so look at that, and especially in relationship with other people. Okay, how has it impacted you today? And when you're done with that, go ahead and start sharing on your table. For those of you online, you can also do this for yourself. The 5 circles of identity. Did they get that? Okay. Okay. Did you find things that were similar to each other? Did you find things that were different? This group is having too much fun over here. Okay. What we found that when we do this exercise is that no one is exactly alike. No one's exactly alike. Can I have the next slide? You see, there are 3 aspects of a person. We just found out, right? We're all unique. We shared our names, we shared our identity, circles of identity. We're unique. But we're also all the same. Okay, we are all the same. In other words, we all breathe air. I mean, does anybody here not breathe air? We all have, red blood cells. We all have needs for shelter and food and so forth. So we're all the same, right? That's humanity. But we are same with some people and different from others. And this is the part we call culture. How we are similar with each other in some ways, because we share maybe the similar culture, but how we are different from each other because maybe we have come from different cultures. So we're going to look more at culture now, and we'll have the next slide. So what is culture? Culture is all the learned ways of life of a group of people